let's talk about my most anticipated book releases for the summer. I've been doing these videos in 3-month increments, and so today we're going to be talking about the summer months. We'll be talking about books that are coming out in July, August, and September of 2024. Most of these are going to be mystery, thriller, and horror books, but there will be a couple wild cards here and there for other genres and books that I'm interested in. Starting with books coming out in July, one of the books I'm most excited about is The Haters by Robin Harding. I absolutely loved The Drowning Woman from Robin Harding last year. It was, I think, my favorite thriller book that I read last year, at least in the top 3. Previously, I had read some other books from Robin Harding, but The Drowning Woman was just perfection, exactly what I was looking for, so I'm very excited to see what she does next. The Haters is a twisted tale of fame, obsession, and the dark recesses of social media. We're following an author named Cameron Lane who is living her dream. After several years of struggle and rejection, her first novel has finally been published. Her editor is happy, her teenage daughter is proud, and her boyfriend and friends are all excited for her. She's on top of the world until she receives a disturbing message from an unknown sender. Rattled by the accusations she finds there, Cameron swallows the sick feeling in her stomach and resolves to put the missive out of her mind. But when she checks her ratings on a popular book site, she finds a scathing 1-star review. The reviewer is so articulate and convincing that soon Cameron's book is flooded with bad reviews. Could the reviewer be the same person who sent the ugly email, and why do they want to ruin her? As the online harassment creeps into Cameron's personal life, she vows to find out who's behind it. Is it really a disgruntled reader, or could it be someone she knows? The troll's actions are escalating, and when the abuse turns deadly, it will take everything Cameron has to unmask the enemy so intent on destroying her and finally learn why she's being targeted. This also sounds similar to The Last Word by Taylor Adams, which again was one of my favorite thrillers of the last year, so I'm very excited to see what Robin Harding does with this story. I really like stories about obsession as well, so hopefully this is a win. Next up is Heads Will Roll by Josh Winning. This is the same author as Burn the Negative, which I really enjoyed that book. In this story, you are following a sitcom star named Willow who is being canceled after some tweets and is now being shipped off to Camp Castaway by her agent. It's tucked away in upstate New York, and it's a summer camp for adults who are desperate to leave their mistakes behind. No real names, no phones, no way to call for help. Terror grips the group, campers begin to lose their heads, literally, and disturbing past deeds come to light. Is Willow about to get canceled all over again, this time for good? I haven't really read many, if any, books about cancellation, which is an interesting topic in itself, and this sounds like a really fun summer read too, being like a camp slasher, so definitely looking forward to this. Next up is Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. I did read Camp Damascus from this author, and I liked that book. I give it a 3 stars, so I'm not putting this at the very top of my radar. I'm gonna look out for some early reviews and then decide if I want to pick it up early or if it's something I'll maybe pick up later down the line. But this is a new heart-pounding story about what it takes to succeed in a world that wants you dead. Misha is a jaded scriptwriter who's been working in Hollywood for years and has just been nominated for his first Oscar. But when he's pressured by his producers to kill off a gay character in the upcoming season finale for the algorithm, Misha discovers that it's not that simple. As he is haunted by his past and past mistakes, Misha must risk everything to find a way to do what's right before it's too late. I'm already noticing a trend this summer of writers and people working in Hollywood being very popular in a lot of these upcoming releases, so interesting, something to keep looking out for in the other books and hopefully doesn't become oversaturated. But this does sound more interesting than I remembered it sounding, so I will take a look at some early reviews and see what kind of reception it's getting, if it's something I want to pick up. I'm gonna do the same thing with I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones because I have had mixed results with his full-length novels. This is going to be a classic slasher story with a twist. It's set in 1989 in Texas, in a small West Texas town driven by oil and cotton, and a place where everyone knows everyone else's business. So it goes for Tolly Driver, a good kid with more potential than application, 17 and about to be cursed to kill for revenge. Here, Stephen Graham Jones explores the Texas he grew up in, the unfairness of being on the outside, through the slasher horror he lives, but from the perspective of the killer, Tolly, writing his own autobiography. It sounds kind of similar to the My Heart is a Chainsaw books, and that I didn't really get into. I do want to give that another chance at some point. So I think I'm just gonna wait to see some early reviews for this one, make some decisions then. One of the wild cards on my list is the sci-fi book called All This and More by Peng Shepherd, which sounds so interesting. This is about a woman who gets the chance to rewrite every mistake mistake she's ever made and how far she'll go to find her elusive happily ever after. But there's a twist. The reader gets to decide what she does next to change her fate. Meek, Play It Safe Marsh, has just turned 45 and her life is in shambles. Her career is stagnant, her marriage has imploded, and her teenage daughter grows more distant by the day. Marsh is convinced she's missed her chance at everything: romance, professional fulfillment, and adventure, and is desperate for a do-over. She can't believe her luck when she's selected to be the star of the global sensation All This and More, a show that uses quantum technology to allow contestants the chance to revise their pasts and change their present lives. It's Marsh's only shot to seize her dreams, and she's determined to get it right this time. But even as she rises to become a famous lawyer, gets back together with her high school sweetheart, and travels the world, she begins to worry that All This and More's promise might be too good to be true. Because while the technology is amazing, something seems a bit off. Can Marsh really make her life everything she wants it to be, and is it worth it? I don't really know how the reader is going to get to make choices in this book, if it's going to be like a choose your own adventure sort of story, or what the structure will be, but that sounds really intriguing to me. And I just love sort of sci-fi speculative stories about the choices you make in your life and regrets, and if you had this magic ability to see things play out another way, what would you do? So this sounds right up my alley. And again, there's a little bit of that Hollywood aspect because in this one there's a show. My other wild card for July is The Villain Edit by Lori DeVore, which is a romance story that is being compared to Emily Henry meets Fleabag. I love Emily Henry books, except for this last one, but I think it was just a fluke. And I just got into Fleabag in the last year and I really loved that. And just generally, I'm finding myself really interested in stories like that with that level of dry humor and millennial malaise and just, existentialism to them a little bit. Also meets The Bachelor, which I haven't watched in a couple of years, but I like reality dating TV. This is about a cynical romance novelist, again, we've got a novelist, who goes on a Bachelor-like reality show, again, we've got Hollywood, to revive her flagging career, only to discover that while she may have just met the love of her life, the producers have turned her into the show's villain. Good villains make good TV. Desperate, Jack dreams up a comeback plan. She's going to be a contestant on the most obsessively watched reality dating show in the world. After all, Jack is a romance writer. She knows how to pull off a meet cute and create a spicy plotline. On set, Jack quickly establishes herself as a frontrunner for Bachelor Marcus's heart, but she's shocked to discover who's actually pulling the strings. How was she to know that Henry Foster, her last one-night stand before the show, was actually a longtime producer on the one? Henry is just as horrified, but they can't seem to keep their hands off each other. They say there's no such thing as bad publicity, but as Jack's secret plan begins crumbling around her, she's not so sure. What if in trying to save her career, Jack has ruined her life? If you have seen my latest reading blog, you know I have also had a lot of success with stories around reality TV, and this just sounds like the perfect romance book for me. Now moving into August, the first book I have to talk about is The Plus One by S.C. Lawley, and I do have an arc of this one from NetGalley, so I'm hoping to get to it in July so I can give you an early review of it. This is being compared to White Lotus meets The Guest List, two things I've really loved, and this is a novel where two business moguls were set to be married in the biggest event of the year until they're both found murdered the day before the wedding, and a social outsider must unravel the mystery before her own hidden agenda is revealed. The wedding of Radhika Singh and Raj Joshi, a week-long affair at a luxury resort in Cabos, isn't just going to be the event of the season, it will also mark the union of two highly influential and wealthy Indian American families. Shaylee Shea Kapoor is just an outsider, but she just so happens to be dating Raj's best friend, Caleb Prescott, and is sucked into this world of wealth and excess. But on the morning the wedding festivities are supposed to begin, the resort's wedding coordinator makes an announcement that Raj and Radhika are dead, gunshots to the head. Chaos descends on the hotel as the guests are turned away or sent home. Shay stays by Caleb's side as the investigation begins to unfold. Family and close friends grieve and accusations run wild. The police believe the murders are a drug cartel hit. But even if it was a cartel hit, even if the murderer somehow got past the resort's security, the hotel room doors have state-of-the-art locks. There was no way for the murderer to slip into the room without a key, and only the sister of the bride, Zara, the best men, Caleb and Sean, and the wedding coordinator, Daniela, have keys. Shay may be an outsider, and she definitely has secrets of her own, but she may be the only person with enough perspective to untangle everyone's lies and discover why anyone would want the bride and groom dead. A summer wedding at a resort with a murder mystery sounds perfect for the summer. Next up is another book I have an arc for that I'm hoping to get to early. This does look like a longer book, saying it's 448 pages, which makes me a little bit nervous, but it does sound very good. It's called A Mask of Lies by Matthew Lyons. This is a crime horror novel which blends It Follows and The Outsider with a pinch of The Evil Dead. Again, all things that I love, in which a criminal and the cop she's taken hostage must find their way to safety, pursued by threats both human and supernatural after a failed bank robbery. In the grisly aftermath of a botched bank heist, career criminal Anne Heller has no choice but to return to her family's cabin, a secluded shack in the St. Louis Valley, and the site of her mother's untimely death. Along for the ride are Jessup, Anne's badly wounded partner, and Dutch, the police officer she's taken hostage. As they wait for help, Anne discovers strange relics of her mother and begins to unfold the mystery of her childhood at the cabin. Anne's quest to uncover more is interrupted when Jessup goes missing, only to turn up dead. She and Dutch bury her friend, but that night the dead man comes back, seemingly risen from his grave, to knock at the cabin door. Not a dream, not a hallucination, but not exactly Jessup either. Something else. Something wearing her friend's face. Something hungry. The cops aren't the only ones after Anne, and unraveling the secrets of her mother's past may be her only hope of getting out alive. This sounds so creepy, and it sounds like it has elements of grief horror, which is one of my favorite tropes in the genre, so I'm very interested to check this one out. I think I also have an arc of this one, and that's Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. This is a YA mystery, and I'm not reading as many YA mysteries nowadays, but this one did sound interesting to me, so I do have it on my radar. I have read from this author before. I read the first book in the Truly Devious series, and then I never continued with this series. I liked that book, I just wasn't interested in reading a series at the time, and this is a standalone young adult mystery about a teen who uncovers a mystery while working as a tour guide on an island and must solve it before history repeats itself. The fire wasn't Marlo Wexler's fault. Dates should be hot, but not hot enough to warrant literal firefighters. Akila, the girl Marlo has been in love with for years, will never go out with her again. No one dates an accidental arsonist. With her house-sitting career up in flames, it seems the universe owes Marlo a new summer job, and that's how she ends up at Morning House, a mansion built on an island in the 1920s and abandoned shortly thereafter. It's easy enough giving tours, low risk of fire, high chance of getting bored, talking about stained glass and nut cutlets and prohibition. Oh, and the deaths. Did anyone mention the deaths? Maybe this job isn't such a gift after all. Morning House has a horrific secret that has been buried for decades, and now the person who brought her here is missing. All it takes is one clue to set off a catastrophic chain of events. One small detail, just like a spark, could burn it all down if someone doesn't bury Marlo first. I saw Maureen Johnson talking about this book as well, and I'm pretty sure she said there's a lot of Easter eggs hidden in the cover of booktube, which I think is really fun and will be cool to see once you read the book what you can recognize in the cover. Next is a book I randomly stumbled upon that just sounded really chilling, and I wanted to check it out, and that is Someone in the Attic by Andrea Mara. I've never heard of this author before or read anything from them, but basically the concept of this is you thought you were home alone. Anya's enjoying a nice little bath when she hears a noise coming from the ceiling. Through the open bathroom door, she sees the attic hatch swing down and a masked figure drops to the floor. 30 seconds later, Anya is dead. Across town, Anya's old school friend Julia sees an online video of a masked figure climbing out of an attic. She suddenly realizes why the footage is eerily similar. It was filmed inside her house in a luxury gated community designed to keep intruders out. Why would a stranger target Julia unless, of course, it's not a stranger at all? Sounds so weird, and generally just this concept, someone in the attic, very creepy, so I think this is one I'm going to try to check out. Next up is Glass Houses by Madeline Ashby. This is a masterful near future whodunit for fans of Glass Onion and Black Mirror, which sounds exactly up my alley. Join a stranded startup team led by a terrifyingly realistic, charismatic billionaire, a deserted tropical island, and a mysterious AI-driven mansion as the remaining members disappear one by one. A group of employees and their CEO, celebrating the sale of their remarkable emotion mapping AI algorithm, crash onto a not quite deserted tropical island. Luckily, those who survived have found a beautiful, fully stocked private place with all the latest technological updates, though one without connection to the outside world. The house, however, has more secrets than anyone might have guessed, and much darker reason for having been built and left behind. Kristen, the hyper-competent human emotional support technician, i.e. the eccentric, boyish billionaire CEO Sumter's idea of an HR department, tries to keep her colleagues stable throughout this new challenge, but staying sane seems to be as much of a challenge as staying alive. Being a woman in technology has always meant having to be smarter than anyone expects, and Kristen's survival skills are more impressive than anyone knows. Sounds like it's going to do some interesting things with the actual AI being more of a character, so I'm very interested to check this one out. And now we find ourselves in the September releases, starting with We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. I finally gave the Thursday Murder Club another chance recently, and I did enjoy it, and I am continuing in that series. So I am more interested in Richard Osman now, and this book sounds really good. This is a mystery book. It says solving murders. It's a family business. Steve Wheeler is enjoying retired life. He still does the odd bit of investigation work, but he prefers his familiar routines. The pub quiz, his favorite bench, his cat waiting for him at home. His days of adventure are over. Adrenaline is daughter-in-law Amy's job now. Amy Wheeler thinks adrenaline is good for the soul. Working in private security security, every day is dangerous. She's currently on a remote island protecting mega best-selling author Rosie D'Antonio until a dead body and a bag of money mean trouble in paradise. So she sends an SOS to the only person she trusts. As a thrilling race around the world begins, can Amy and Steve outrun and outsmart a killer? Next is this book, The Night Guest. It was originally published in October of 2021, but it is being translated and it's coming out on September 3rd from Tor Nightfire, and it looks to be just over 200 pages. This one is set in Iceland. I never know how to say this place's name, but it's in Iceland, and I'm not gonna know how to say any of these characters' names or the author's name, so I'm gonna have to figure all that out eventually, but for the sake of this, we'll just get through as best as we can. So we have our main character who is in yet another doctor's office. She knows her constant fatigue is a sign that something's not right, but practitioners dismiss her symptoms and blood tests haven't revealed any cause. When she starts talking to friends and family about it, the refrain is the same. Have you tried eating better, exercising more, establishing a nighttime routine? She tries to follow their advice, buying everything from vitamins to sleeping pills to a step-counting watch. Nothing helps. Until one night, she falls asleep with the watch on and wakes up to find she's walked over 40,000 steps in the night. What is happening when she's asleep? Why is she waking up with increasingly disturbing injuries? And why won't anyone believe her? 40,000 steps in a night is insane. You are doing a lot if you are walking 40,000 steps in the night. And this looks to be a combination of horror and thriller. So very much looking forward to this. Maybe it would even make a good pick for the 24-hour horror-a-thon later in the year. Next up is Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. I actually have not read If We Were Villains by this author, which is a very popular book, but I never got around to reading it. This is going to be another novella. It's 144 pages, and it sounds like something that could be interesting to me. Again, maybe another pick later in the year. This is a story about a ragtag group of night shift workers who meet in the local cemetery to unearth the secrets lurking in an open grave. Every night in the college's ancient cemetery, 5 people cross paths as they work the late shift: a bartender, a rideshare driver, a hotel receptionist, the steward of the derelict church that looms over them, and the editor-in-chief of the college paper, always in search of a story. One dark October evening in the defunct churchyard, they find a hole that wasn't there before, a fresh open grave where no grave should be, but who dug it and for whom? Before they go their separate ways, the gravedigger returns. As they trail him through the night, they realize he may be the key to a string of strange happenings around town that have made headlines for the last few weeks, and that they may be closer to the mystery than they thought. Next is So Thirsty from Rachel Harrison. Again, this is an author that is popular that I have not yet read from, but this sounds like the book that may pull me into finally reading one of her books. This is a vampire book, and it says a woman must learn to take life by the throat after a night out leads to irrevocable changes in this juicy, thrilling novel. Sloane Parker is dreading her birthday. She doesn't need a reminder she's getting older or that she's feeling indifferent about her own life. Her husband surprises her with a birthday weekend getaway, not with him, but with Sloane's longtime best friend, troublemaker extraordinaire Naomi. Sloane anticipates a weekend of wine tastings and cozy robes and strategic avoidance of issues she'd rather not confront, like her husband's repeated infidelity. But when they arrive at their rental cottage, it becomes clear Naomi has something else in mind. She wants Sloane to stop letting things happen to her for Sloane to really live. So Naomi orchestrates a wild night out with a group of mysterious strangers, only for it to take a horrifying turn that changes Sloane and Naomi's lives literally forever. The friends are forced to come to terms with some pretty eternal consequences in this bloody, seductive novel about how it's never too late to find satisfaction, even though it might taste different than expected. And lastly is Haunt Sweet Home by Sarah Pinsker. This is another horror novella coming in around 176 pages. It's also coming from Tor on September 3rd. And this is set on a reality TV show. There are stage scares which transform into unnerving reality in the spooky ghost story. When aimless 20-something Mara lands a job as the night shift production assistant on her cousin's ghost hunting / home makeover reality TV show, Haunt Sweet Home, she quickly determines her new role will require a healthy attitude toward duplicity. But as she hides fog machines in the woods and improvises scares to spook new homeowners, a series of unnerving incidents on set and a creepy new coworker force Mara to confront whether the person she's truly been deceiving and hiding from all along is herself. Eerie and empathetic, Haunt Sweet Home is a multifaceted supernatural exploration of finding your own way into adulthood and into yourself. So that's it for my list of my most anticipated releases coming out in the next 3 months. Let me know down below which ones you're interested in picking up as well, and let me know if there are any books that I didn't include on my list that you think I should have on my radar. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!